Greetings. Uh, what this presentation is about is a special kind of graph that we can use to compare different places. It could be used, in fact, in the Michigan curriculum, it's deliberately put in third grade where we begin to talk about comparing the environments in Michigan with other places around the world. But I don't have a title on here because I'd rather start it with the question, what do you think you're looking at here? You could sit there and discuss that for a ride, maybe even have the children write down something that you think it might be. And if they look completely puzzled, you could narrow the question a little bit to say, there are 12 numbers. What comes in bunches of 12? And you think about that for a little while. It's actually a record of the average temperatures in New York City for each month of the year. And we picked New York City because a lot of the news programs that you see will have a meteorologist from New York, especially the morning shows. It'll tell you what it is, and you can use this information if you're watching a news show and you want to be able to see how does your temperature compare to what it's like in New York. Is your temperature today higher or lower than they would have in New York at this time? But is a row of numbers easy to remember? And you want to ask the student, what could we do that would make it easier to remember a row of numbers like this? Um, Kind of question that you just want them to puzzle about for a little while because they want to see that making a graph isn't just a mathematics activity. It's actually something that people do in order to make life a little bit easier for them. So the presentation is about making a thermograph. Thermal meaning heat, or temperature graph, or just thermometer graph. And we've got a worksheet that shows one kind of thermograph. Uh, First step in making a thermograph like this is to write down the numbers that you had. In this case, we're looking at the temperature each month at New York City. So we write that up at the title, and then we put the numbers down at the bottom. And then you'd say, how high should this bar go in any month? We'll pick April because it's a nice round number. It's 50. And if you drew the line up to where that 50 is there, you've got that month. And then we put a few more months in. And if you keep on doing it, you got a nice visual image of what the temperature looks like at New York City. Now, before you try to remember what this looks like, it helps an awful lot to add two more lines to the graph here. Because these numbers are averages, it's likely to be a lot warmer on a sunny day, and it's going to be colder at night because night just tends to be colder than it is during the day. So a really good rule of thumb is to draw a line across the graph at about 65 degrees. If the average temperature for a month is below that line, people are going to need a heater in their house. They're going to need some way of making it a little bit warmer there. In other words, people in New York are going to need heaters for about 6 months out of every year. Now, if the temperature is above that line, then you're almost sure to want to have air conditioners during the day. So people in New York probably want to have air conditioners for about 2 to 3 summer months. Now, that's not very long. And in fact, a lot of people in New York don't even bother to make an air conditioner. They just put a fan on, or put a window open, something like that. Another real useful rule of thumb is to draw a line at 32 degrees. 30 degrees is the freezing temperature of water. So if the average temperature for a whole month is below that line, if any snow falls, it's not going to melt. And pipes might even freeze in the ground. So New York might have snow for a couple weeks in December and January, but they're not likely to have snow any other month of the year that sticks around. It could fall in November, but it just isn't likely to be, really serious. Uh, Now, the whole point of a graph is to help you compare places. So we put down the numbers for Detroit. What do you think this graph is going to look like? And if you drew it, it looks something like that when you're done. You could ask the question, how many months are people likely to need heaters? How many months would they want air conditioners? How many months is snow going to be on the ground? When you take the two graphs and put them up side by side, you can see that Detroit and New York really have just about the same weather. Detroit's just a little bit colder in winter, and they're just about the same temperature in summer. On the other hand, if I put Detroit there and I put the graph for Miami in Florida, you can see that's really different. That every month in Miami is hotter than all but July in Detroit. And in January, it's almost 40 degrees, 45 degrees warmer down there. You might want to stop with a graph like this and have students talk a little bit more about the differences that they observe, because the activity from here is really very straightforward. The website that I'll show you later has got the data for a number of cities in Michigan and another page that's got a number of cities in different places. And you've got a blank thermometer graph, and different students or different groups of students can make graphs for different places and then compare them with other ones that are made by other students. A copy of the presentation, all of the data tables, and printable graph forms can be accessed at the Giants website that you see on the screen. So check it out.